Hey there guys, Matthew here from the Who Addicts and welcome to our review for Doctor Who Series 11 Episode 4, Arachnids in the UK, even though it should have been Arachnids in Sheffield. Anyway, so without doubt, I'd say this is a very, very creepy episode. It obviously is based around spiders, which is one of the most common human fears. So, what did we think of Arachnids in the UK, in brackets Sheffield? Bearing in mind, we've not rewatched this because Liv doesn't want to. What does that say?
Yeah, should we start with Liv? What was your reaction to the episode, Liv?
Because I have a phobia. I hate spiders. I am scared of spiders. And that, oh God, like, at the time when watching it, was there, because I was me and Matthew sat eating our tea. I couldn't eat my tea anymore once watching that. It knocked me sick.
In a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you that it was very creepy. The spiders were, because I didn't really think I'm that bad with spiders. I don't love them, but I didn't think I hated them that much. But after watching that, I'm like, oh,
I hate them.
No
I
thanks.
hate spiders.
What about you, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, I put a tweet out saying it's one of the creepiest episodes I've ever seen, and people just started bombarding me, saying, The Empty Child, The Waters of Mars, Midnight, and all this, and I'm like, okay, I get it, okay. What I mean was, it made my skin crawl more than any other.
Yeah.
You know, like, Midnight made me go, oh, that's a bit weird, but I literally could not watch at times.
No,
I had to look away because, and I'm not the worst with spiders either, but yeah, I think if the episode set out to be creepy, and it definitely was. Yeah. As for the rest of it, though, I'm not too sure. I think at the end of I say at the end of my first watch, we have only watched it once, as I said. At first, when we finished watching, I thought that was good because the creepiness and that creepy feeling was still there, and I was still thinking, oh, that was good. I was creeped out. But then, the more I look back on it and the more I think about it, I think the creepiness and the spiders and the look of them overshadowed the actual episode, the actual story. And the more I started to think about that, the more I started to see faults in it. But we'll definitely, obviously, dig deeper into that.
Because I thought the story on this episode was the poorest story we've had so far. Okay. Do you agree?
I'd say it may be on par with the... Actually, yeah, I'd say it probably is a little weaker than the Ghost Monument in terms of what the story was about.
Definitely.
A lot of people saying it's the weakest. We'll discuss where it is in our ranking. Could do a mini ranking at the end of this review. A mini ranking. As always, before I forget, if you want to listen to this review on the go, just search for the Who Addicts on your chosen podcast provider, before I forget. So, let's start. Yes, 3 minutes in before I forget. So, where should we start then with this episode? Should we start with the spiders then? Because as a villain, I thought it was original for the writers to not go with a villain which is from outer space or has this crazy special thing about them, like all different, you know, they went for something that is a basic human fear and they just times it by 11.
Yeah, because that's what I assumed wrongly, obviously, that the spiders were going to be something that had to be something to do with an alien of sorts.
Yeah, I did.
It was an alien that caused it, but actually it was all human caused, which I found quite interesting because, I assumed that it would have some alien aspect, but it didn't.
I was quite disappointed just by me thinking that, because I was wanting somebody to be controlling the spiders.
Yeah, no, I mean, at first I thought that the hotel owner might have been behind them.
Yeah, I did.
But I actually wasn't too bothered about them being I think that's too much of a cliche, like an army of spiders and there's a guy controlling it. I thought that it was such a sort of a basic, villain. It was such a basic idea. And, they've used this many times in Doctor Who. Obviously, I think there's been episodes where they've used the dark, the fear of the dark, what's under the bed, different things, basic human fears, which they've used very, very well. And sometimes that's all you need. You just need to base a villain on people's most basic fears, and spiders probably are the most. You know, the amount of people who have arachnophobia would have watched this story and would have been absolutely scared out of their minds, more than they'd be scared of any other villain that they create with CGI or prosthetics. So I think the idea was basic but very, very effective.
Yeah, and I think something else. Not only were the spiders creepy, but also what they did to the humans that were wrapped up in cocoons.
Yeah.
Although that, thinking about it, that was kind of dropped because they were like, oh yeah, they're storing them as food, and then they were like, but they don't eat humans, and then it was just kind of left like that. Was there an explanation for that I totally missed?
I don't know. I mean, they mentioned that their behaviour was obviously altered.
Very wrong.
Yeah. So
maybe it's just that.
Yeah, I think that might have been it. But
yeah,
I loved the idea of there was a mix between this waste that this hotel was built on and the mutated carcasses or whatever from this lab. Put them together and it made these mutant spiders. But some of the scenes, I mean, there's too many that made me jump and be creeped out. But the one that stands out to me was in the bathroom when that horrible guy, was it Robertson was his name? When he opened the door and you see the back of the spider just sort of eating away at the guy on his bodyguard. I mean, that was
horrific.
Yeah, they didn't hold back. I honestly did think when watching this story that they're probably going to hold back on a few things. Nope. You know, the spider was scary enough, but they didn't.
Yeah, and then when they went into that flat and it was all cobwebs everywhere, and then there was the woman just wrapped in cobwebs. It was so creepy.
Yeah, it's nice to see Doctor Who not holding back and just going straight for what it's wanting to do. It was unbelievably scary and creepy, and Doctor Who creepiest at its most purest, I think. So obviously that was the whole motive behind the spiders and everything. What did you think of some of the characters that we met? I'd say it was relatively a small cast again. What did you think of some of the characters we met outside of the Doctor and the companions?
I found the side cast weaker, so compared to others that we've had because of the series so far.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there, because obviously last week we had, well, it was Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and such, and then obviously the Ghost Monument, those characters, even though they weren't like notable characters, I felt like they were a bit more substantial than the characters that we had this week. The guy, the villain, I can't even remember what his name is.
Dickhead.
I didn't really...
Dickhead.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Dickhead.
Yeah, him. I didn't really feel much towards him. Like, I was like, oh, he's a bit of a knob, but nothing. He didn't really feel that much of a baddie to me, really, because at the end of the day, he wasn't actually involved with any of the spiders. He was just the only thing he did wrong was building hotels on top of landfill.
Yeah, I agree.
And another thing with that is, I was expecting there to be, because they were talking about all the hotels like across the globe, and I was expecting it to be like one like massive plot that like the whole world is going to be taken over by spiders or something. But then it was, and it wasn't even based in the UK. It was literally just Sheffield that we saw the impact. So it would have been nice in a way just to see if there was any like things that got impacted by his schemes elsewhere in the world, not just Sheffield. But yeah, I didn't really feel much for him or his bodyguard.
That's where I was left disappointed with that guy and the actual story, because in the beginning I was thinking that there's that guy there's a dickhead guy behind all these spiders, and umphing it up, and then and I was thinking that his hotel, so was it false, like because there was him controlling it, because all over the world, but because there was in the end like wasn't.
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit more from him and the hotel. I mean, he still sort of indirectly caused it, because his hotel was built on, landfill, and all his other hotels were built on landfill, so that could have opened the door to other hotels causing the same problem. Yeah. But what I will say is that this episode did feel a little bit more contained than I thought it would.
A lot more contained.
I thought the title was very misleading. Arachnids in the UK. It just made me think that it was going to be a big scale, going to be quite a big operation, but in the end, it seemed like the people of Sheffield, apart from the ones who were killed, had no idea. And, you know, that's
Exactly,
great, and it makes
yeah.
it easy for the writers to wrap stuff up, of course. It doesn't make for such a big, difficult episode. But I just, I was expecting a little bit more, and maybe that's, you know, that's the title's fault for calling it Arachnids in the UK. But as a character, I did sort of hate him quite a bit. I did sort of look to him and think, you are a bit of an arsehole.
A dickhead, yeah, but he was the dickhead.
But I thought the way that his character just, and I'm gonna, I think this could maybe segue into the Doctor. At the end, when he walked in and shot the spider, and then just left, I thought was a bit like, oh, you know, I was expecting him to do something stupid, and that scene, you know, unbelievably made me feel sorry for the spider. So that's good writing, you know, to make me feel sorry for a creature I've pretty much hated for the whole episode. But he just sort of left, and then that was it.
Yeah.
Nothing was made of it.
That scene didn't sit well with me either, because in a way, shooting the spider, that puts it out of the pain, because they said it was literally like struggling to breathe. So surely it was actually more humane to just shoot it and then put it out of its misery.
Yeah, it's a good point. I've not actually looked at it like that.
So I didn't think that what he did was actually that bad of a thing to do, really.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I've not actually looked at it from that perspective, actually.
So I was left confused at the end, thinking, well, since that spider got killed, shot, it's all the other spiders in people's homes. So what happened to all them spiders?
Yeah, and also what happens to all the rest of the hotels? They're still built on landfill, and that could happen again, possibly. Who knows? It doesn't seem to feel like he had any punishment or realization that what he's doing is actually wrong.
Yeah, the ending wasn't conclusive enough.
No.
I know we're jumping quite far to the end, but it just didn't feel like it sort of wrapped everything up enough. There were still obviously the hotels out there. He's just walked away. Someone made a good point on Twitter that we've had the likes of Tim Shaw escape without dying, the Krasko escape without dying, this guy escape without dying. It's a theme that the baddies, you could call them, are all sort of escaping without dying.
Yeah.
Is that a purposeful thing? Are they deliberately doing that so they all come back in the end?
It's weird because Chibnall seems to be really happy to just kill off innocent people like that. Like the amount of innocent people that have been killed, like in this episode alone, the people that got killed by the spiders, I don't know, 4, 5 maybe, and yet the bad guys don't seem to get any of the punishments. So yeah, that's an interesting thing to pick up on, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm hoping there's a reason behind that, because in this episode especially, it's just sort of felt a little bit anticlimactic, the way that it just sort of ended.
Yeah.
The actual end of the episode was great, which we'll talk about.
What about Yaz's family?
I liked that. I thought that it was nice to see her side of the family, her, you know, a bit of an insight into her actual life. It just, you know, it was there.
Yeah.
I was glad it happened, and that was it, really.
I was quite underwhelmed because I thought that being based in Sheffield, and from what we saw from like trailers and things, that it was going to be more based around Yaz's family, and it would have involved him a bit more than it actually did, because it started with Yaz being like, "Oh, do you want to come around for tea?" And then they were just sat there, and then they were just waiting for them to come back for tea at the end, and it didn't really feel like there was much interaction going on. I mean, obviously Yaz's mum was there, so it was nice to get to see a bit of Yaz's mum, but I do feel still like, as well, including Yaz, that we haven't seen much of her, and it seems to be still focused on the other characters.
I kind of agree, but at the same time, I was kind of content with what we saw of Yaz's family. I think it's a step in the right direction. I still think there's a lot of time for
It's definitely in a step in the right direction, but I still am quite hungry to see some more like things based on Yaz rather than the other two.
Yeah, it was nice. What I liked is how she said, you know, I want to find out more about you and this doctor, and then she just left. So that, you know, her mother is curious as to, you know, what's going on. So I'm hoping that later on in the series she finds out what's going on, and then there could be some friction there between her and the doctor. You know, her daughter's been off doing this crazy thing. Obviously, Graham and Ryan are family, so they sort of know what each other are doing. They can look after each other. But yeah, it's sort of, I think it's opened up a lot of possibilities with Yaz and her family. So I would have liked more, but I still think I was okay with it. I think I kind of enjoyed that.
I found Yaz's family annoying.
Oh,
From my point of view.
Brutal.
Wow.
Mainly her mum was just grating on me the most throughout the whole episode, I thought.
Why? What was it that...
I don't know, there was just certain lines, and I'm not really sure why, but I just found them annoying. Like, very annoying.
And
That's
the
fair
three
enough.
of us completely have differing opinions on Yaz's family.
Yeah, strange, isn't
Very
it?
strange. One character that I am not 100%... I wouldn't say 100% happy, but a character I expected more from this week was the Doctor.
Okay.
Now, I said this in last week's review, and I remember saying that, you know, people have said that they're expecting a lot more from her and that they wanted to completely control an episode, and all that, and, you know, I didn't really agree with them at the time, and I thought this week she was a little bit more in control than she has been in past stories. I think the Doctor took a bit more of a centre stage role, which I liked. But I still, I'm sort of starting to want her to go into another gear. And I feel like at the end, when Robertson shot the spider, I wanted a reaction from her.
Yeah.
I wanted her to be angry, furious. And there were a couple other times where he'd say something, you know, like at the scene where, I think it might have been in his panic room, he turned around and this was basically Chibnall's way of saying what America are doing is wrong, what Britain's doing right, when he basically said, it went a bit political, when he was like,
It did a bit.
we're Americans, we like to shoot people, you know, which was, you know, very politically in the face of the viewer. But I was expecting the Doctor to really turn around and be like, actually, you know, guns are wrong, we do this right, you know, and I really have a go at him and get that message across, but she just didn't. And I think back to past Doctors, and I think, well, other Doctors faced with a character like him would have really put him in his place.
Yeah.
So I feel like, in terms of leading the story, and she did steal scenes, but I was just wanting a bit more from her this week in moments, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think, again, it's that pattern that we've kind of noticed with Chibnall's stories. Like, he's good with characters, but he's... when it comes to the actual story and the interactions within the story of the characters, it kind of becomes a bit weaker, doesn't it?
With the Doctor, she is so fun, like, so all the time with her companions, but you know what I'm missing? These so angry scenes. Because I was like, it's the previous Doctors. Because I've gone, like, mad at people for, like, so using guns in that situation.
Yeah.
With Jodie at the minute, this might be due with the writing more than her, but I'm finding her just very fun, and that's it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think the problem is that we've gone from Peter Capaldi, who's got the attack eyebrows and this like deep booming voice, to Jodie Whittaker, who, as nice as she is, as great as an actress as she is, you know, she's got this kind of higher pitched voice, and her eyebrows are just normal, and they're not attack eyebrows.
Normal eyebrows.
So you don't. I think with that as well, even if she is angry, it won't come across as angry as especially Peter Capaldi's Doctor would. But I do get that she doesn't seem to, like you said, with the whole gun thing, she didn't seem to be that fazed by it. Like I do like how like Ryan's picked up on how she is, and when he picked up the gun, Ryan was like, the Doctor's not gonna like that.
Yeah.
But then she just kind of went up and was just like, yeah, no, this is bad. Don't do that. There's another way.
I think there's just that side of it that we're missing, and you know, there is the excuse that we are going from a very angry Doctor to a much more sort of, you know, gentle, subtle, fun Doctor. But then you look at the 11th Doctor, he's much more, and I'm not saying Jodie's not fun, but I'm saying he was much more bouncy and energetic and childish, I guess. But there were still scenes where the 11th Doctor got very, very angry. And I can imagine him in that scene. If someone had shot a creature... I mean, I think back to an episode like The Beast Below with the whale.
Yeah.
And there's a couple more others. Vincent and the Doctor, when that blind creature was accidentally stabbed. You know, and that creature was stabbed by Vincent, who wasn't even malicious. And he was just... really mad at it and upset, and he got them sort of things made him really emotional. I was just expecting a bit more emotion from 13 in that scene. I'm not banging a Doctor or criticising her, and before people in the comments say that we hate the 13th Doctor.
Oh God!
Here we go again.
There'll be the few.
Here we go again.
But there was even a guy on Twitter who said we hate Blink because Moffat written it. I don't know what planet he lives on. Yeah, I'd like to see a bit more from her in them scenes, but we might in due course. We'll see.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I hope so. I do hope so.
I do too. As for the companions, obviously we spoke about Yaz. I thought she was solid enough. Ryan again added that little bit of humour, and you could tell he's a little bit younger. I think there were a couple of lines where he was like defo. I was a bit like, all right, not all people that is.
Yeah.
I think sometimes Chibnall's getting a little bit misinterpreted with some of the things that he says.
There's a couple of scenes that made me chuckle. The scene, I don't know if you noticed in the background where he was making like hand puppets with the projector. That made me crack up. And then there was the whole solution to trapping the spiders was him playing some horrific music.
I hated the music.
And I had never thought that I would hear that sort of music on a Doctor Who episode.
I agree.
Like, not even like in the background, but like full on. I was watching it with my headphones in, and it was just like, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah, I agree. The music was very strange. What do you think of that ending then? Just briefly. Obviously, we spoke about the story and where the spiders come from, but what did you think of how they got them, back into the room? I know we've spoke about how they, some of them, like the spider in the room in the hotel, and there's a few like loose ends that weren't tied up. But what did you think of the bits they did tie up with the music and the vibrations, pulling the spiders in? I sort of liked it because it is true. Spiders do levitate towards vibration, so it made sense.
Yeah, and also it didn't work well. I'm presuming that music didn't attract all the spiders that had gone to like the people near Yaz's house, or all the other, like, because on the map there's loads of dots across the entire of Sheffield, and I don't really think that speaker would have attracted those spiders. It didn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. It was a bit quick and a bit too, convenient, I think. It made sense in the smaller scale of things, but I think overall, I don't think it tied up everything that we would have wanted to have been tied up. So yeah, back to Ryan anyway. I thought he was good. He had a few iffy moments, but I think he was okay. Graham, again, he's just, every single week, he is just surprising me more and more, and I am loving him more and more every single week. The scenes with him when he went back to the house, and as we've said when in the review for episode 1, we'd only like to see Grace come back in flashback scenes. It was done perfectly.
Oh, it was done amazingly, that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really done well.
He thought he was talking to her, he thought she was there with him, and then she disappeared.
It was so sad, them scenes were sad.
The look on his face, he was absolutely amazing once again.
Graham, week in, week out, is honestly, for me, stealing the show.
I agree. He just keeps on getting better and better. And credit to both Chibnall for his writing, but also Bradley Walsh for portraying him so well. Just the looks on his face, he does so well. It's actually, I didn't expect him. Like, I knew that he'd be okay, but I didn't expect him to be this good.
Didn't.
No, I don't think anybody did.
I didn't. Definitely
He's
not.
completely blowing out the park.
Yeah, he really is. And another reason for that, and I think it's safe to say we can go on to the very, very, very end, which is a scene that I always look forward to, and that's when the Doctor invites her companions on board.
Yeah.
But what I liked about this is normally, and at the start it seemed like the Doctor was the one who was a bit, she didn't want them to leave her.
Yeah.
But then at the end, I was expecting her to be the one who's like, so, do you want to come? We always get the one more trip. The Doctor wants them on board. But this time, Chibnall swapped it around, and he used the companions' motives for what's happened to them in their personal life, and he used that for them being the ones who wanted to come on board. And that scene with the three of them was amazing. I think, Ryan's motive was, quite normal. I don't want to work on I don't want to have a normal job.
Yeah.
We've seen many companions like that. Yaz, my family drive me a bit crazy. I was a bit like, okay. But Graham's, it touched me hard because after what happened to me last year, basically, I lost a very close loved one. And when he said that grief needs time, and he said that he wants to be on board the TARDIS because he doesn't want to sit in that house all day on his own. He doesn't want to be consumed by it all. It hit me straight away, and I related to him instantly. And I thought that is so true, and even his motivation for being there relates so much to me. I loved him even more for that. And the three of them, to see all three of them be the ones who want to be on the TARDIS for various different reasons was great. But Graham's more than anything hit me so hard, and I relate so much to him. I think he's just fantastic, and I love that ending. What did you two think of how they did that at the end?
I mean, I don't relate to him as much, but like you said, like the performance, not just from Bradley, but also like all three of them, just the way they're like, we want to come with you at the end of the day. It was quite nice to see it kind of flipped on its head, where like you normally said that the Doctor's the one who's like, come with me. So yeah, it's quite nice.
I also liked when after the companions like said that, I also liked because there was the Doctor saying, "Well, are you sure?" And there was this line that stuck to me, that I can't always promise to always keep you safe. I love that line.
Yeah, I forgot
I like
about that. Yeah,
because she likes to be responsible, but she doesn't want to take all responsibility because she knows, and she's obviously lost in the past companions.
Yeah, in that moment, I just sort of. They just said like all the reasons as to why they were there, and then she said it's gonna be dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's the way that they all sort of committed themselves. It just made me think, if we lose one of these, I'm going to be devastated.
Same.
That was the first thought that came into my head. They've committed to it, and I just thought if one of them, especially Graham.
Oh. Please don't kill Graham off, Kibble,
I just thought.
Why would you even say that?
Oh. Please.
I know I'll be in tears now.
Yeah, I would.
It was great to see the Doctor show that responsible side. Yeah. It's like she sort of saw in her head what's happened to Donna, Adric, you name it. I guess you could say Amy and Rory, other companions. It's like she's having flashbacks in her mind at that moment. She's looking at these three, and she's like, I don't want this to happen again, so please reassure me that you want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they all put their hands on the lever. TARDIS team TARDIS.
That was nice, that scene at the end. Yeah, when they did that.
I'll tell you something else I did like in this episode was that it was set in present day, and just the aspect of when the Doctor was in Yaz's flat and trying to be normal. I really missed that. It gives me flashbacks to things like in the Christmas Invasion and whatever, when the Doctor's trying to fit in, or in Rose when the Doctor's trying to fit in.
Yeah, that was funny.
And it just doesn't go to plan at all. I really like that.
Yeah, that's a big compliment to Jodie in this episode. I know we were saying earlier that there was sides to that we'd like to see, but I loved how she portrayed the alien side of her Doctor in this episode, when she's talking about how she'd love a sofa, that she sits on it, am I small talking properly? I thought that side of her was great. So there's parts of her Doctor that I'm loving, and it's not criticism. I want to see more. I just want to see more of her. I want to see her react to things. I want to see her show different emotions. And there is the argument that we are only in episode 4. We might still see these moments, but I just thought this was the perfect time for her to just show that angry side to her. But yeah, I thought the contemporary side of the episode, being back on Earth, it was really, really nice. And each episode this series has been different.
Yeah, but that's been different.
That's what I like.
Definitely different.
I think there's been a great variety to this series. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go next.
Ratings then?
Ratings and conclusions. I'm not going to go first because I don't know my rating at this moment in time.
I'll go first with this one. Because
so, rate away.
I know my rating, so I'm going to give it a 5.
What? Oh!
A 5.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Wow, okay.
Like, there was parts I liked with the TARDIS team at the end. I liked them scenes, and there's also them scenes like with the Doctor and like Yaz's family, like home, them scenes. But the story was just poor. Very poor for me. And also, plus, I hate spiders. They knock me sick.
Well, that was the point of the episode, wasn't it? You're not meant to sit there and go, "Oh, them lovely giant spiders, aren't they
Yes,
lovely?"
I love them.
I just
want to give them a
cuddle
cuddle.
Yes, yes, but they knock me sick.
Yeah, I can't really say that's a criticism because that's the point. You know what I mean? It's like watching.
Yes, but the story was so pure.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by that. Yeah, I'm noticing a pattern actually, and I'm not sure if it's a pattern I like. I mean, it's a pattern I can accept for a bit, and then it's a pattern that's concerning me a bit as time goes on, and that's that the sci-fi and that I know he wants to make Doctor Who accessible, but I just think, you know, believe it or not, after next week we're halfway through the series. That's mental. I just would like to see a bit more of a deeper story with a bit more. They've been very basic right now, and that's fine. But I just feel like the sci-fi, it's a bit simple. It's very, this is this is what we need to do. And I don't feel like the viewers really had to work stuff out for themselves as much. I think it's all been sort of spoon-fed, explained to us, and it's been pretty simple. But the character side of it's been amazing.
Yeah, it has been really good, but just not like the villain side of it. That
And that's what I've been
it's
crying
where
out
I'm
for.
missing.
I've been crying out for that. I've been crying out for Doctor Who to be deeper and dramatic with great characters that are relatable. It's what I've wanted, so I can't really, you know, I'm not knocking it because I'd be a hypocrite if I did. But I am missing that complex story side of it.
It feels like there's a Venn diagram with like 3 or 4 different things, and one of them's like the sci-fi aspects, and then one's like the companions, and then one's the Doctor, and it feels like they can only choose a certain amount of things, and they can't just have them all at one. Yeah. Like something has to be dropped to make the other things good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think it's getting the balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've got to strike the balance, and I'm hoping that in stories to come, you know, when the characters are more established, you know, they're very established at the moment, and I'm loving the bits and pieces they're doing with them. But you know, it might get to a point where, you know, we know the companions, we know the score. Let's have a story that's really gonna, you know, and Rosa Parks, you know, Rosa to an extent, you know, the historically was that, but I mean sci-fi. You know, I want a really sci-fi sort of story. For me, I'm going to give it a 6.5. Again, the story was a bit hollow, but I appreciate the character work so much, and I thought that the companions stood out once again. Graham was just unbelievably relatable. I love the scenes with him, and again, I thought the Doctor was very good. I just want more from her in certain moments. But I loved being back on Earth. I really did enjoy seeing Yaz's family, and the spiders creeped the hell out of me, and I've never hid behind a pillow so much for a long time, and that's what the episode wanted to do, and it achieved that. So it might not have been everyone's cup of tea, Liv, but the episode did exactly what it wanted to, so I've got to appreciate that. But yeah, the story was a little bit hollow, and there were some moments like the ending was very sort of flat and
quick,
wrapped up very quickly, and there are loose ends there. But you never know, we might run into another one of these giant spiders. We might run into that Robertson again later on in the series. That might be what they're doing.
Please no more spiders.
Liv would love to see the spiders again.
Oh, she would love to. So yeah, a 6.5 for me. What about you, Jacob?
Interesting. I'm going to do it the normal way around and say my thoughts first and then my rating.
Oh, God.
Okay.
I didn't even realise we've done it wrong. We've done it wrong.
Yeah, we've done it all wrong. Yeah, I'm a bit stuck with this episode because in lots of sections I think it really excelled, but other parts I felt were lacking. So the scare factor was immense in this episode. I loved the spiders, and they were massive, and I really liked that, and I think it did a good job of being scary. Again, the characters, the companions especially, were on top form. The Doctor was very likeable. I do get, though, that she didn't seem to have as much of a strong reaction to when, whatever his name is, Robertson, I don't know.
I'm taking a guess. I might have got his name wrong for the whole review.
It might have been. When he shot the spider, I was expecting something a bit more from the Doctor. But the actual plot itself and the motives and where the spiders came from, I felt was a bit of a letdown, and I think that by the end of the episode it was a bit anticlimactic, to be honest. And I would have liked to see a bit more of a established ending because I felt like there was lots of loose ends that weren't really resolved properly. But I did like the setting of it being back on Earth in modern day and it not being in Cardiff. No offence to Cardiff, I love Cardiff, but it's nice to see somewhere that's not Cardiff. So yeah, bearing that in mind, and bearing in mind that I gave the Ghost Monument a 7, I'm gonna give this. Oh, I don't know. It's really difficult. I'm gonna give it a 7 as well.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I love how Jacob I love how he keeps so continuative with his ratings. He's like, well, I gave that this. I'm
Because
not
at the
giving
end of the
Rosa
day,
a 10, just in case. I love the continuity that you have with your ratings.
yeah. At the end of the day, I base my rating on how I enjoyed the episode, and at the time, when I was watching the episode, I was like, oh, I like this. This is scary. This is good.
I
The
did
characters
enjoy
are good.
it. Yeah.
I did enjoy it. But I do see that it has faults, and comparing to the Ghost Monument, I think they are on a similar level, plot-wise especially, of how much I enjoyed it. So yeah, a 7 for me. I'm probably going to regret that in a few weeks.
Well, we'll see. It's all opinion. So, since we're talking about comparing it with other episodes, let's quickly just rank Series 11 so far. So, would you say it's on par with the Ghost Monument for you then, Jacob, or would you say that there is one? Because I'm assuming Rosa is all of our favourite episodes.
Yes, definitely.
Without a doubt, it stands
Without
on
doubt.
shoulders above the other three. But what about the Ghost Monument then with you, Jacob, and this episode?
So I'd have Rosa number 1, the Woman Who Fell to Earth number 2, and then if I had to choose one to be number 3, it would probably be the Ghost Monument. And then I'd say that this episode was my least favourite of the series so far, but that's not a bad thing. Like it isn't like I hated it. But it's just, I think, the weakest episode so far.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Rose is definitely the best. Woman Who Fell to Earth is second. Obviously, my ratings would say that this would be weaker than the Ghost Monument. But, I did sort of react more to this episode than the Ghost Monument. I was really creeped out. The Ghost Monument, I was sort of going through the motions. But I appreciate the look of it and what it did. And the story was stronger. The plot was a little bit stronger in this than this episode. So it's very close. But I guess I'd probably say the Ghost Monument just beats this.
Yeah, same.
I think I'd probably, the more I watch the Ghost Monument, the more I'd like it. Comparing it to this, I think the more I watch this, the more like I said earlier with the creep factor, that I think the creepiness really, immersed me in this episode. The more I watch this episode, the more I get used to the spiders, the more I get used to where they are when they appear, the least I'll probably enjoy it. It's a bit like a horror film. Once you know where the jump scares are, you don't really enjoy it as much. So I think over time, the Ghost Monument will probably be the better episode for me. What about you?
Rose is definitely first, obviously.
Oh, yes.
Because then for me, I really enjoyed the Ghost Monument for me, and so that would be second.
Okay.
Then so would be the first episode, and then this one would be last.
Yeah.
Very interesting, but fair enough. Do comment in the section below your ranking, of course, of the first 4 episodes, and of course what you thought of this one. And I guess that's it then for Arachnids in the UK in brackets Sheffield. So
In brackets.
In brackets Sheffield.
It pretty much was. Let's be honest.
It was really.
So do like this video if you've enjoyed it, and of course give us a little applaud on the podcast or whatever it is that you use. On Anchor, it's an applaud. You can applaud. You can applaud the podcast.
Really?
An
On
applaud.
Anchor. Yes, you can just clap it. You can
That's
clap
funny.
the podcast. Or you can subscribe on iTunes or whatever the hell you do on all these podcast providers. You can also subscribe on a lot of them as well, I do believe. But most importantly, of course, do subscribe to us on the channel, comment as I've said, and follow us across all the social medias. And donate to us on Patreon if you would love to do that. In terms of our previews, we are struggling on what to do or what to replace them with. We did put a poll up on Twitter asking if people think we should replace the previews with something else, because we find them very difficult to do, with obviously there not being much to talk about in terms of the next episode. And the majority, I think 59 to 41% or something, said that we should replace the previews with something else. So whether that be a live stream, whether that be something else, please do comment below any ideas that you might have. But I will still be bringing you my 5 talking points from this episode, and of course a video on why I don't like the TARDIS.
Interesting.
Controversial.
It is. Retro Who Addicts. We're going back to the old
Classic.
days. Why I hate the 12th Doctor's Sonic sort of style.
Oh
Maybe
my
not that
God.
bad. I still get abused for that video
Oh.
till this day. But yeah, until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.